Hello, welcome to the coordinate plane video. So your job today is to pay close attention, take detailed notes, and be prepared to ask any questions that you have. So the first thing we can do is go ahead and write the title, coordinate plane, in your notebooks. Make sure you have a central margin and that you write the date, whatever date you're taking this on, okay? So we're going to talk about the coordinate plane. And I know that you have had some experience with this, but if you have not, that's why we're doing this. So you might be able to breeze through this and take your notes and move on to practice rather quickly, or you might need to pause and think about this as you go along and ask questions. So the coordinate plane is a mathematician's way of going from one dimension to two dimensions. Okay, so I'm going to explain what that means, but I'm going to start with something that you know a lot about, and that's the number line. So I'm going to try to draw mine as straight as I can, but you have lines on your paper to draw yours perfectly straight, or a ruler. All right, so here is the number line. Okay, you know quite a bit about the number line already, but you have 0 in the center. Okay, positive numbers go in this direction, so we'll call this 1, 2, 3, 4, and negative numbers going to the left. -1, -2, -3, -4. Okay? Be sure and draw this in your notebook, please, leaving some space as I have. All right. So this is one-dimensional, right? We can only move in this one dimension right here. So if mathematicians want to talk about things that exist within a space that's two-dimensional, we need to add another number line. So this may start looking familiar to you. If we add another number line going vertically, we can start talking about things in two-dimensional space. Okay? So I'm going to say up is positive, which is the way mathematicians have decided. 2, 3, 4, and -1, -2, -3, and -4. Okay? So we've now created something that's in two-dimensional space. So instead of staying on a line, I can now come out in these open spaces to place points, to place locations, really. Okay, so we need a way to name these. So scientists have just arbitrarily, maybe, or maybe more than I know, decided that this is the X number line, and this is the Y number line. So again, this one is called the X, and we call it an axis, the X-axis and the Y-axis. So we're going to have to find a way right now to memorize this. Maybe I'll put it in red so it's a bit, or green, green's fun. A little bit more bold, X and Y, and I wrote it fancy, like you see math writing printed with little curvatures. You can do that or not do that, okay? Let's find a way to memorize that right now. So I want you to think of a way to memorize that this horizontal line is X and this vertical is Y. So just maybe pause if you want and try to think of a way that you personally can remember that. Okay, how I remember it, and I don't know if this is the best way, but this is how my brain works. I say that this is horizontal, and I remember that that is the X-axis, and then I know the other one's the Y, the vertical. Okay, so if you don't know what horizontal means, though, I'm not sure I can help you. But, okay, maybe I can't, actually. It runs with the horizon, right? The sun rises on the horizon, which goes this direction. Okay, so horizontal might be a way to memorize that. Great. Okay, so we got the X and Y axis, all right? Now, we want to learn how mathematicians actually decide how to label these locations. So we call that an ordered pair, okay? So write down on your sheet, ordered pair. And we always put the X value first. So an ordered pair will be in parentheses most of the time. And whatever the X value is will come first. There'll be a comma to separate them. And the Y value will come second, close with the parentheses. Why is X first? I'm not entirely certain. We just decided we go horizontal first, then vertical. Maybe you can pause and think of a way to memorize that X goes first and not Y. That X goes first and not Y. I don't have a good one, so if you find one, let me know, okay? So this now is a location. So let me give you an example. we will say the point A is at the location 3, 2. So the x value is 3 and the y value is 2. So let's think about that looking at the coordinate plane. The x is horizontal, so I have to find 3. So here is 3 on the horizontal x-axis. The y is 2, so I go to the vertical and I find 2. Here is 2. So now I have these 2 points on both of the axes, and I want to see where they meet. So I'm sorry that I don't have graph paper. If you had graph paper, these lines would be drawn for you. So I'm just going to kind of draw them right now. The 3 line goes like this, right? The 3 line goes like this. And the 2 line for y goes like this. Okay? I've done more work than I have to because I just need to know where they meet. I just need to know where they meet. So that point where they meet is right here. So that's a location in space now, in a 2-dimensional space. So you need 2 coordinates to locate that. All right, so I'm going to erase my little lines I drew as to not confuse it with my other points I draw in a second. Okay, and this is point A. I'm going to go ahead and label that point A. So I hope that's starting to make a little bit of sense to you. I want you to pause this video and go ahead and try to do B, C, D, and E. So here is B, -1, 3. Here is C, 2, -2. And here is D. Can you see that? Okay, good. D is -3, -2. And finally, E, I want you to think about this one, is 0, 0. Okay? Pause this video and try to plot those on your graph, and let's see where we're at. All right, welcome back if you paused it. I'm going to go ahead and try to give you the answers here. So we have -1 for x, and 3 should be here. So there's B. C, -2, -2. -2, -2. C. D is -3, -2. -3, -2. D. And E is 0, 0. That should be right here. A, B, C, D, and E. Wonderful. Now the reason I had to do 0, 0 is because it's a very special point. It is where the axes meet, and it has a special name, and that is called the origin. So write down origin on your paper and note that it is at 0, 0. I'll even do a little arrow here as well. Note it on your graph as well. So we will use that vocab word origin, and you need to know what that means. So hopefully that kind of makes sense to you. It's where both of these number lines originate, where they cross at, the origin. Okay, fantastic. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and delete this, erase this, so that I can write a little bit more up for you. Okay, so the last bit I want to talk about is something called quadrants. Go. So make your next subtitle I should say, quadrants. So if you already know what the prefix quad means, this is going to make sense to you. The prefix quad means 4. Okay? And if you've noticed, we've divided our space into 4 areas. So mathematicians have numbered these quadrants so that it's easy to refer to them. So we have labeled this quadrant 1. I'll use blue to do this, but we usually don't write the number 1. We usually use the Roman numeral 1. Well, I don't know why, because it makes us feel cool. Okay, so here's 1. Okay? This we chose as number 1 because that's the one we most often operate in. If I deleted the rest of this graph, that should look very familiar to you. You've done graphing in science class and in other classes that operate in only quadrant 1. X is down here, Y is up here, just like that. Okay? Now I'm exposing you to the rest of the coordinate plane that include negative numbers. So going counterclockwise, this is quadrant 2, this is quadrant 3, and this is quadrant 4. Okay? So if you start here at 1, that makes sense, and then you just need to memorize, does it go in a clockwise fashion or a counterclockwise fashion? So make sure you remember that 2 is actually to the left, then 3, then 4. Okay? So in quadrant 1, Are the values for x positive or negative? Let me repeat. In quadrant 1, are the values for x in quadrant 1 positive or negative? Hope you said positive. How about for y? Are they positive or negative for y in quadrant 1? Hope you said positive there too. So I'm going to put in parentheses both the x, that's a positive sign, not an x, and the y are positive. So you get all positive values in quadrant 1. Okay? How about quadrant 2, 3, and 4? Pause this video and try to do that on your own. Try to decide if they're positive or negative or both negative. All right, so hopefully you paused. Here are the answers. X is negative in quadrant 2, and y is positive. In quadrant 3, they are both negative. Negative and negative in quadrant 3. And in quadrant 4, x is positive, but y is negative. Okay, so that will refer to that. So here's my question to you then, and you can pause and answer this. How about the ordered pair, negative 7, 7? What quadrant is that in? Okay, negative 7, 7. What quadrant is that in? Pause and answer that question. All right, let's take a look at it. Negative 7 would be, oh my goodness, I didn't even go up to 7. Okay, so negative 7 would be in this direction. We'll say somewhere out here. And positive, oops, sorry, yep, and for the y value, positive 7 would be in the upward direction somewhere up here. So they would definitely meet somewhere over here in quadrant 2. Okay, fantastic. I hope this is making some sense to you, and I hope it's not completely new. What I want you to do now is to move on to the classwork, and you may choose what level you think you're at, whether that is standard or challenge. We have a little bit different work today, depending on where you're at. And then make sure you're asking me questions as you practice this. So really, we're just plotting points and figuring out where points are plotted. We're using ordered pairs and talking about quadrants. Bye! Thank you for listening.